Progress.
Makes there be more water so that way you have water. Okay. I finished. Are you just starting?
Oh.
Hi, Feige.
Hi, how are you, Magda?
Good. I'm glad that you're here to wish you get gebenched.
You too, a good Gebenchter and Nachnes and gesund.
Where will you be davening?
I'll be a young Israel.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Will Ellie be coming?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
You know, Marlene was watching the funeral for Rochelle Chris, and she
Oh,
said, "God bless Peggy Marciano." She came to the because she saw that you had this big surgery, so she was
yeah.
very impressed that you went to the
I could not come.
Of course. You're like, you did so many years, took classes together.
I know. And like I said, we used to drive 40 minutes to UCLA back and forth. She used to talk about her family and,
Sure. She has it's really nice children. Very nice. Sabina, I like a lot. I like Ellie. Connie, the younger one, I know. I really don't know the other ones.
yeah. But she was just amazing.
She was really so
Very talented and
her son is a doctor in Fairlawn, and my mojatenista lives in Fairlawn. So
who?
my mojatenista, this
Oh.
Rivka's mother-in-law lives in Fair Lawn.
Right,
So one of Rochelle's kids lives in Fair Lawn. He's a doctor there.
right, Daniel.
So she said that she used to see Rochelle come to be, the show, whatever. She said
Right.
she impressed my Mohatenis. So such an elegant lady, such beautiful jewelry.
Yeah,
That's what she was saying today.
yeah.
That's how we are, we are Europeans, we like to dress up on Shabbos.
Right.
Today people don't do that anymore. They don't dress up so much. They're more casual.
Really?
Yeah. In general, yeah.
Yeah. So are you going to Israel in the end for Sukkot?
No, we're not going. We're going to go in November.
Oh, November, yeah.
That's fine. My kids are going and they're going to see their kids, which is fine. And
Right.
once they go, then we'll go and visit with them.
Right, yeah. This way it'll break it up, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
One we're looking for. We actually made tickets already. We have a hotel, so we're good. Yeah.
Okay, sounds good,
It's
yeah.
happening. It's happening. I
Yeah,
can't believe that the Critches, they went there. Saul, he went to the Levaya in Israel, and then he maybe was there for an hour, and then he came right back. Can you imagine? I
Yeah.
always find it such a
we did that too for my mother.
You did the same thing.
Yeah, we, for my mother, went to, my brother had a friend in, who had a yeshiva near the cemetery. We sat and we had that Seudah HaMafseket, and then we got on our plane and came back.
That's tough.
Yeah.
Hello. Hi. Hey, Susie.
Hi.
Shana Tova, good gebench your.
Shana Tova, good gebench, yeah.
Time to wish each other that. Oh, there is Anna. She made it up.
Hi, Anna.
Hi, Anna.
Shana
Oh,
Tova.
I wanted to wish a good year, Susie and Ernie.
You too, Anna.
To Anna, Mario,
That
good
is a-
gebench your.
The same to you.
And good gebench your to everybody.
Good gebench, yeah.
The others I see show.
Same here.
Oh, Icho, you see?
Yeah.
I will.
Hello, Icho.
Where's Icho?
Hello.
Oh, Walter is
That's Anna's brother.
Where's Icho? There's Icho. Wow.
Yeah.
I'm
Very nice.
incognito.
Very nice.
Ernie, good gebench, before we start, can I ask you a question?
Okay.
Last week you were talking about Michael and being like a mazal for Bnei Israel.
The SAR.
But what does it really mean, a mazal? What is the really?
I didn't say mazel. All of the umos ha'olam in Shamayim have a SAR. Like we say, Saro Shalesav.
Right.
They have someone mumuneh appointed to represent them in the heavenly court. And Michael, so Michael is the malach that goes to bat for Klal Yisrael.
Okay.
Gabriel is, we said, he's Gvura, that's din. Hashem uses Gabriel to carry out certain actions, bidin, in this world. If we go to the story of the malachim that were sent to Avram, right? And the same three malachim. One was sent to give Avram the news that he was going to have Yitzchak. The others were to destroy Lot, and one to destroy Sodom, and one to save Lot. So Gabriel is mentioned there. He's one of the malachim. Okay. By the way,
Thank you.
Everybody needs a refuah shleima. Thank you. You should have a refuah shleima.
Thank you.
Be a very good, healthy year for you.
Amen.
Amen.
by the way, here we finished Perek Yud, and we start Yud Aleph tonight. But again, I explained last week that this is an artificial break. The Christians created the chapters, and the vision of Daniel from Gabriel is continuing. We said Perek Yud, really Perek Yud, Yud Aleph, Yud Beis is one chapter. It was right in the middle of the discussion. In fact, in Pasuk Chaf Aleph, where it says that he was he's going to go and do battle with the Tsar of Persia. When he departed, the Tsar of Greece came. And I'm just going to read an explanation. I was able to exert influence in the favor of the Jews during the hegemony of the Persians. But when the time comes for the heavenly prince of Greece, i.e., for Greek domination of the Jewish exile, I must depart. My presence will not be able to make its influence felt. Hence, the exile under the Greeks will not be as mild and benevolent as under the Persians. And he said, Aval agid lecha, right? I will tell you what is inscribed in truthful writing. Though I cannot be of help against the Greeks as I was with the Persians, I will at least forewarn and tell you what is going to befall your nation during the Greeks. It may be easier to bear with the knowledge that they were foreseen and what has been prophesied. Now, very apropos to Rosh Hashanah, those events which are part of the divine knowledge of the future and which can be changed through repentance and good deeds, those events are considered to be inscribed, not signed and sealed with the divine seal as irrevocable divine decrees. So being inscribed in the book of life, we talk about Rosh Hashanah, being inscribed, but it's not sealed. So therefore, that inscription can be changed through tefillah, good deeds, and tshuva. Once it's sealed, right, that's what he meant, agid lecha et harashum biktav emet. That biktav emet is when it becomes irrevocable. Like, we all know there are trusts, family trusts. Some are revocable. That means you can change it. Those that are irrevocable, they're unchanged. And it's supposed to outlive you. The instructions in an irrevocable trust outlive the people who set up the trust. And the same concept that when an inscription by Hashem is made irrevocable, then it can't be changed. And that's what happens. That's why Ne'ilah on Yom Kippur is so important, because that is a corollary to what we're learning here, that's a decree that's sealed. Now, we know the drushes that really it extends to Hoshana Rabbah, right? That really the petek, right? The kvittel, where we say a gittin kvittel, that by Ne'ilah, a petek is created and it's delivered, but it's not delivered until Hoshana Rabbah, which is why we say on Hoshana Rabbah you should have a gittin kvittel, because it extends. And then some people, the Hasidic masters, say that it extends until Zois Chanukah, until the last day of Chanukah, 8th day of Chanukah, Zois Chanukah, that we have time until then. But that's okay. The Yerushalmi says, if you notice, we said that the mark of irrevocability is biksav emet. Emet, Chazal ask, what is chosamo of a Kodesh Baruch Hu?
Miss.
What is, was that George? Was that, who said
Yes.
that? George, right? George, was that you? Oh, no, that was Itcho. Itcho said emes, right? So chosamo shel Kodesh Baruch Hu is emes. Now, Reish Lakish says, what's the pshat? Why emes? So let's dissect the word emes. Aleph is the first letter of the alphabet. Mem is the middle letter. Taf is the last letter. Like Hashem saying, I am the first, I am the last, and there's no Hashem other than me. It's a pasuk in Yeshayahu. Now, even a Gzar Din in Rosh Hashanah 18a, that even a Gzar Din has been decreed, it can be revoked by if it's a tzibur, through prayer. Now, when an oath accompanies the decree, if there's a shvuah, then it becomes irrevocable. And so since the decree concerned the whole of the Klal Yisrael, it needed to have an oath as well. Okay. So again, to answer Fegi, Michael, right? You see, no one reinforces me against these except your heavenly prince, Michael. Ki I Michael Sarchem, in his capacity as heavenly prince of the Jewish people, he is empowered occasionally to save his people in supernatural ways, despite the wishes of the heavenly host. That's how the Malbim learns. Okay. Pasuk Yudal, Perak Yudal. Vani b'shnas achas l'Daryevesh Hamodi. He's in the first year of Darius the Mede. Remember, Darius the Mede took over as king of Persia after Belshazzar died the night of the writing of the wall. After Daryevesh, the Mede was Koresh, the first Koresh HaGadol, who allowed Klal Yisrael to return to Eretz Yisrael. But the Shomronim in Eretz Yisrael stopped them from building the Beis HaMikdash. It took 18 more years. After Koresh, there's Achashverosh, who married Esther. And Achashverosh and Esther had a child named Daryevesh Hasheni, Darius II, or Darius the Persian, not Darius the Mede. And he, 18 years later, after Koresh allowed them to go, allowed them to finish the building of the Beis HaMikdash. I sent everybody tonight in your WhatsApp, in the Navi, a list of the Persian and Greek kings. And we're going to go through a history that the visions given to Daniel gives a very exact history as what happened. So much so, as we will see soon, that when Alexander the Great came into contact with Shimon HaTzadik, who was the Kohen Gadol at the time in Eretz Yisrael, they showed him Sefer Daniel. And they showed him all the prophecies that referred to him. He was so impressed that he spared the Beis HaMikdash. So let's learn carefully tonight the historical details that appear a little bit in Divrei Yomim, and some of it we know from the Herodotus, the Greek historians, and of course from Josephus Flavius, who was a Jew, lived in the time of Rome, was a Jewish general in the time of the destruction of Vaisheni. He eventually, I wouldn't say became like a Benedict Arnold, right? Benedict Arnold was an American revolutionary general who defected to the British. In a sense, Josephus also defected to the Romans and became a Roman historian. And much of what we know from antiquity, not just Jewish history, but all history, comes from Josephus. So that's the sort. Now, Rashi versus the Abarbanel and Malbim, the Abarbanel and Malbim are going to learn these psukim historically. Rashi has a few arguments with them. So most of what we're going to say goes according to Abarbanel and the Malbim. So ani b'shnazachas l'Daryevesh Hamodi, amdi l'machzik l'mozlo. I stood as a support and stronghold from him. This is still Gabriel speaking, that when Darius the Mede became king of the empire, the Persian and Median nobles wished to oppress the Jews. Gabriel had to stand up and support Michael to prevent the Persians from carrying that out. Pasuk Beis. Ve'ata emet agid lach. I'm going to tell you more truth. Hine od shlosha malachim omdim lefaras. There are going to be subsequent 3 kings to Persia. V'harivi'i, the 4th, Ya'ashir Osher Gadol Mikol, will be wealthiest of all of them. U'kechezchato be'ashro ya'ir et hakol et malchut Yavan. When he grows wealthy, it is his wealth that the Greeks are going to go after when they attack the Persians. So the Seder Olam, which is Chazal, giving us a history, identify these 3 kings as the original Koresh, right? Cyrus, who let the Jewish people go back. Then Achashverosh. Achashverosh was not a child. Achashverosh was a general who became the king after Cyrus. And then Achashverosh and Esther Amalka had a child, Darius the Persian, who eventually built the temple. That which is written, the 4th was the first Darius the Mede. But Josephus says that Koresh had a son named Cambyses who reigned, so he doesn't count Darius the Mede. And the Vilna Gaon, in his comments on Seder Olam, says they don't count Cambyses because his reign lasted only a half a year. And then therefore, based on the way the Seder Olam learns, it was Darius the Persian, Daryevish Hasheni, the son of Achashverosh and Esther Amalka, who was vanquished by Alexander the Great. Now, in Ezra, there are other names that the son of Achashverosh and Esther was also called Koresh Hasheni. He's also called Artaxerxes. So the Gemara in Rosh Hashanah says, Tana, who Koresh, who Daryavesh, who Artaxerxes. Koresh Malach Kosher, he was good to the Jews. And Artaxerxes al Shem Malchuso, he was called Artaxerxes, that was sort of his kingdom name. What was his personal name? Daryavesh. So it's the same, and this is the 4th king who was very wealthy that Alexander the Great eventually conquered. The Daryavesh who allowed the binyan of the Beis HaMikdash was the wealthiest king. Yeshayahu Hanavi prophesied about him. Ko amar Hashem leMashicho leKoresh. It refers to this Koresh, not the original Koresh, who let them go back initially, but they couldn't build the Beis HaMikdash, but it's Koresh Hasheni. There in Yeshayahu it says, "V'nosati lecha oitzroitz choshech umitmanei mistaris." These are the wealth that nobody else could have. And Rav Sadia Gaon, it was his wealth that caused the king of the Greeks to come and eventually do battle and to take his wealth. The Gemara in Psachim, Kuf Yud Tes, Am Ravid Am Shmuel, Kol Kesef V'Zav Sheba'olam, Yosef Loktu Ve'viu L'Mitzrayim. All the gold and silver in the world, in the time of Yosef HaTzadik, when there was a famine and nobody had food, and Yosef told everyone, bring us your money, including the 12 Shvatim who came from Canaan with their money. He gathered all the money in the world, and that was in Mitzrayim. Says the Gemara in Psachim, K'sha'alu Yisrael Mitzrayim he'elu imohen. When the Jews left Mitzrayim, they took all that gold and silver with them. Shneamar vayinatzlu es Mitzrayim. They fleeced the Egyptians. What did they do with that wealth? Shlomo Melech built a magnificent Beis HaMikdash with gold and silver. Ba'u Kazdim v'natlu mitzidkiyo. Nebuchadnezzar, the king of the Kasdim, looted all that gold and silver, brought it to Bavel. Bau Parsim, the Persians, who inherited the Babylonian Empire, natlu mikazdim, took it from them. Bau Yevanim v'natlu miparsim. The Greeks came and took it from the Persians. That's what's meant by this pasuk. V'harivi yashir osher gadol mikol u'v'cheskaso ka'ashro ya'ir akol et malchus yavam. So this is the sort of the ta'alich, the process of how the money came from here to there. We're going to see the Rav Sadia Gaon gives us the next psukim. He says that there's going to be 47 psukim. The first pasuk talked about the Persian king. The next 13 psukim talk about the Greeks. And then the next 23 will talk about the 23 after will talk about the Roman kings. After that, says Rav Sadia Gaon, the 10 psukim will talk about the kings of Yishmael. And then there are going to be 3 psukim at the end, which talks about the Yeshua. We're talking about Mashiach. There'll be another pasuk about Chias HaMesim. It'll say, talks about the Yesheni Afar. And the third pasuk will be Olam Haba. That's the summary of what we're going to see in the next 44 psukim. Question is, why does Gabriel spend all this time, 44 psukim, on the Greek kings, the Roman kings, and only 3 little psukim on the Yeshua of Klal Yisrael? Says Rav Sadia Gaon, Lefisha Yeshua kvar dibra neviim binyano dvarim arukim v'rechavim. Masha Amar Yeshayahu v'Yirmiyahu v'Yechezkel. We know Hinanochi Shalech Lechem Et Eliyahu Navi. And in Perek Yud Aleph in Yeshayahu that we read on the 8th day of Pesach Haftorah, which talks to the Mashiach. Aval Inyanei Arba Machios Lo Dibra Neviim Behem Ela Beremes. The details about the king, the 4 Persian kings, and then the Greek kings that we're going to learn today was never discussed by the Nevi'im. That's why Gabriel goes into detail here. Pasuk Gimel, the Omad Melech Gibor, a mighty king shall arise, Umashal Mimshal Rav, shall rule with domination, Va'asak Kirtsono, and he will do what he wants. And who is this? None other than Alexander the Great. So we said the talich is Koresh, Achashverosh, there's Achashverosh and Esther's son, Daryovish Hasheni, who's also known as Koresh or Artaxasta. Who is going to defeat him? Alexander the Great. What are we talking about? 323. Alexander the Great died 323 BCE. So he was only 33 years old. So you're talking about the battles maybe were 350 BC. Ezra Sefer comes back 420 BC. This is citing where we are. Okay? So Alexander was from Macedon. Right? He was a Macedonian. And everyone, all the Meforshim say that this pasuk was shown to Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great traveled through Palestine to conquer it. And out came the Kohen Gadol at that time, Shimon HaTzadik, dressed in the Big Day Kahuna. And Alexander fell off his horse and bowed down to him. What was this? The Gemara says that Alexander would have visions before he would win a battle. And the vision was this of the Kohen Gadol. And they say that they showed Alexander these psukim, especially this pasuk, which predicts Daniel lived 200 years before Alexander the Great. And it shows that you see the Jews have Nevi'im. By the way, the Gemara says everyone that year named their child Alexander. we know Sidney Teichmann's Hebrew name was Alexander Sender. There were many Jews who had that name, Alexander, because of this. No, we're not there yet. The list that I sent is going to talk about what happened to Alexander the Great's dynasty. And you're going to see it divided into two main empires, the Seleucid and the Ptolemean branches. And I sent everybody a list of the generals or the kings of the two of those empires, and we'll follow along when we get there. Okay? So let's read the next pasuk. Uche'ando, after he has arisen, tishaver malchuto, his kingdom will be broken. V'techatz la'arba ruchot hashamayim. It will be divided into four, like north, south, east, and west. V'lo la'achriso, the Meforshim say it means he had no children. V'lo k'moshlo asher moshal. But none of those four inheriting empires that followed Alexander the Great were as strong as his. Ki tinatesh malchuto, his kingdom will be uprooted. V'lacheri milvadela. So there will be no kingdoms as strong as Alexander the Great. Alexander died after unbroken series of victories. First, he conquered all the Greek city-states. Then the whole Near East, all the way to India. Some say he died of a fever. Chazal have a Masorah that he was poisoned. And that's why when it says Tishaver Malchuto, his kingdom will be broken, that means he wasn't conquered by another king. His sudden demise left his huge empire without a proper successor. And he had four Alexander generals made four new empires. Now, in Perek Zion, one of the visions that Daniel had was of the leopard with four wings and four heads. There we said it's the same thing, that it refers to the four generals that took over for Alexander. We had another vision of a he-goat whose single horn was broke and was replaced by four horns. That's also the four kingdoms. That's how Rashi learns. Now, what were these four empires? One was Macedonia in the west, Egypt in the south, Syria and Babylon in the north, because we're talking about north of Eretz Yisrael, and Persia extending to India in the east. Eretz Yisrael is the focal point, right? Persia is due east. Syria, Babylon are north. We know Syria is north of Eretz Yisrael. Babylon stretches to the northwest. Macedon is clearly more west than north. And when it says V'lo lachri, so Rashi says his children didn't inherit his kingdom. Alexander left two sons. One was Heracles, an illegitimate son. One was Alexander Aegis, who was born after Alexander the Great died, but both were killed in the battle of supremacy between the generals. When we said V'lo k'moshlo asher mashal, none of the kingdoms will have the power of Alexander's original empire. Pasuk Vayachazak melech hanegev umin sarav. And you notice the vision that Gabriel is giving Daniel, all of this history is going to take place hundreds of years later. We just have to keep this in mind. We know retrospect. Tonight we're going to learn, and I'm going to fill in what we know about the history, the way the Abarbanel and the Malbim tell us. But we have to remember, Daniel is giving a vision, who then is telling Klal Yisrael, we'll see what he told, what he didn't tell, about what's going to happen to them. So the king of the south, Vayachazak Melech HaNegev u'min Sarav. He goes stronger and is noble. Vayachazak alav u'mashal mimshal rav mimshal to. He shall overpower him and rule. His dominion shall be a great dominion. So, of the 4 kingdoms that we discussed, only 2 had lasting importance. The southern, which is Egypt, whose ruler was Ptolemy I, and he founded the Ptolemaic dynasty. We're now talking about, right, the death of Alexander is 323 BCE. The Battle of Actium is 31 BCE, when Mark Antony and Cleopatra are defeated by Augustus Caesar, Octavian. So that is how that Cleopatra's brother was Ptolemy the 14th. The Cleopatra that, married Julius Caesar, was brought by Julius Caesar to Rome, eventually is immortalized by Shakespeare and Antony and Cleopatra. We've seen the movie with Elizabeth Taylor. All of that is true. And Pompey, the Roman general, we're going to get to all of this. This is all being predicted. This is the Ptolemaic dynasty that exists, Ptolemy the first, all the way until Cleopatra, the last queen of the Ptolemaic dynasty. 31 BCE, when she kills herself. When she sees Mark Antony, who also kills himself, she is bitten by an asp that her servants bring, and they die together. That's the myth. Josephus writes about it. Okay, so the first ruler is Ptolemy I. And the ruler of the northern kingdom, which is primarily Syria, is Seleucus. So you have 2 empires, the Seleucid Empire and the Ptolemaic Empire. And we're going to see over the next 200 years, there is a struggle. Let me give you an overview. From 323 BCE to 200 BCE, the Ptolemaic dynasty rules over Palestine, and they're favorable to the Jews. It is during that time that the Septuagint, there's a request that the Torah be written into Greek, and 70 Chachamim were sent to Alexandria, which is in Egypt. This is under the Ptolemaic rulers. So there's good relations between the Jews, and there's no Hellenism. They're allowed to worship Yiddishkeit the way they normally do. Okay. 200 BC, it changes. So, and we're going to see in these psukim the fight between the Seleucids and the Ptolemaics. Eventually, the Seleucids by 200 BCE are going to take over Palestine. And then we have the problem with Antiochus Epiphanes, who, of course, has a war with who? The Hashmonaim, 165 BCE. Okay, so that gives us a broad outline where we can take what we learn next into context. Now, initially, the king of the south, Ptolemy I, grows very strong. This is in the 20 years following Alexander's death. And he has Eretz Yisrael as part of his conquest. Ptolemy, he was a Macedonian nobleman, and he had been one of Alexander's most trusted generals and one of his 7 bodyguards. Seleucus, interestingly, had been one of Ptolemy's generals, but he defected. And then, as established as the ruler of Babylonia, he eventually had to flee because of the Persian ruler Antigonus. And he took refuge with Ptolemy, and when Ptolemy fought Antigonus. But when Antigonus was defeated, Seleucus returned to his kingdom. And Seleucus enlarged his kingdom eastward to India and westward to Syria, where he built his capital, Antioch, which is what, and then eventually, remember, they all call themselves Antiochus, after the name of the city. He was eventually killed while on a campaign to conquer Macedonia. Pasuk Vav. Ulakates shanim yitchabaru. At the end of the years, they will come together. Ubat melech hanegev, the king of the south's daughter, tavo el melech hatzafon, shall marry the king of the north. Lasot mesharim, like to make a treaty. But velo tatzor koach hazroa, she will not restrain the power of the arm. Velo yamod uzro'o, nor will he nor his arm withstand. V'tinaten he umiviyeh vayolda, surrendered will she be, those who brought her, her governess, umachzika ba'itim, and who supported her in the times. So, after fighting for many years, Antiochus II, who was the son of the king we've been talking about, Seleucus I, concluded a peace agreement with Ptolemy II, who was the son of Ptolemy I. Ptolemy II, he's called Ptolemy Philadelphus. He was the sponsor of the Greek translation of the Bible, the Septuagint. Fighting broke out over the dominion of Eretz Yisrael, which had originally been under Ptolemy, like I said, Egypt. But Seleucus I considered Eretz Yisrael as part of his kingdom. After the death of Seleucus I, fighting broke out between Ptolemy I and Antiochus I, and their successors, Ptolemy II and Antiochus II, succeeded, though, in forming an alliance. How? Ptolemy II succeeded in influencing Antiochus II to cast aside his wife, Laodice, and to marry Berenice, daughter of Ptolemy II. But what does it mean, v'lo tatzor koach hazroa? After Ptolemy's death, Antiochus II left Berenice and the son she had borne him in Antioch, and went back to live with his previous wife, Laodice. Remember, Ptolemy had convinced him to get rid of Laodice, but I guess Laodice was really his real love. So he dumped Berenice and the son, went back to his original wife. Laodice, fearing that Antiochus would honor his pledge to name Berenice his son his successor, had Antiochus poisoned, and Berenice, her son, and her whole retinue murdered. Sounds like either Shakespearean plot or something on Netflix. Okay.
Los sicarios, ¿no?
Some writers do not consider the story that Laodice poisoned Antiochus historically noteworthy, but they all know that Antiochus died at approximately the same time. Okay. So, and that's what it means, v'lo yamod uzro. He, Antiochus, his reign will not be long. Antiochus II died suddenly a few years after his marriage of convenience with Berenice. So these visions are historically correct. Pasuk Zayin. Ve'amad mi netzer sharashea kano. A scion from her family, that means a branch from her family, shall arise on that foundation. V'yavo lachayu. He will come to the army. V'yavo b'ma'oz melech hatzafon. We're talking about the Egyptian king will go and attack the northern king. Ve'asa bahem v'chzik, and succeed and seize them. This is referring, says the Malbim and the Abarbanel, to Berenice's brother Ptolemy III, who succeeds his father Ptolemy II, who he said Ptolemy Philadelphus, who had written the Septuagint, on the Egyptian throne. Both Ptolemy II and Antiochus II had died at about the same period. So when Berenice realized that Antiochus was dead and her life was at stake, she eventually would get murdered, right? She shut herself up in a fortress, Seleucia, from where she rallied those faithful to her cause. But Ptolemy III arrived too late to save his sister, but he still found remnants of the army faithful to her. That's what it means, vayavo b'ma'oz. He came upon the army. And therefore, Ptolemy III captured the principal cities of the Seleucid kingdom, which was Seleucia and Antioch. And the Ptolemy succeeded in conquering huge parts of the Seleucid kingdom. Pasuk Ches. V'gam Elohehem im niskehem. Their gods, their princes, im klichem datam, their precious vessels of kesef zav, of silver and gold. Bashvi avi Mitzrayim. He brought all that to Egypt. V'hu shanim yamod. He will be secure for many years. Mimelech hatzafon, without risk from the Seleucid Empire in the north. And the Barbanel and the Malbim tell us that after Ptolemy III returned victorious to Egypt, Seleucid II, who was the son and successor of Antiochus II, swiftly reversed most of Ptolemy's gains. In the war that ensued, Ptolemy held Seleucus II off for many years, and southern Syria and Eretz Yisrael remained in Ptolemy's hands. Rav Sadia Gaon, on this pasuk, where it says "Hushanim Yamod," that he will stand secure for many years, says specifically that it lasted until the death of Cleopatra in 30 BCE, the story that I said about the Battle of Actium. So that refers to this long reign. Okay, pasuk tes. Ubaba Machus Melech HaNegev. He will enter the kingdom of the king of the south, but he will return to Ubaba Machus Melech HaNegev v'shavel admato. This is Seleucus II reconquered for himself the provinces that the king of the south had annexed. And though achieving great victories on land, Seleucus II suffered a disastrous defeat at sea when a storm destroyed his fleet. That's why it says v'shavel admato, to his land. But he wasn't completely victorious because of losing all the ships. And then pasuk yud, uvanav yitgaru, his sons will agitate. V'asfu amon chaylim rabim, will gather. This is the sons of the Seleucid king. Will gather many soldiers. Uba vo v'shataf v'avar. He will gather a multitude of great armies. He will come on, inundate. Inundate means shataf is like flooding and pass through. V'yashov v'yitgareh ad ma'uzah. And he will return and agitate till his stronghold. The children of Seleucus II stirred up wars in which one of the brothers was killed. Seleucus III was assassinated during the campaign after reigning for 4 years. Antiochus the Great, who is Antiochus III, then seized the throne. You're talking about the year 200 BCE. Is that what it says? Look,
187.
yeah, 187. So I said about 200 BC. Because Antiochus III, or Antiochus the Great, is the father of Antiochus Epiphanes.
No, you're right.
Antiochus IV, who is going to be the king that we fight the Hanukkah battles with. So Uvavo, he, Antiochus III, comes and advances as far as Haifa. He hears about a massive Egyptian buildup. He stops. After resuming the war, this Antiochus III swept southward across Eretz Yisrael. Listen, everybody, where he was met at Rafah by an equal source of Egyptians. This is Rafah in Gaza. I've been to Rafah. We were in Kibbutz Sufa, which was a complete opposite of Rafah. So here we are, we're talking about a historical battle 2,000 years ago, and we're still battling over the same area. So again, this is Antiochus III, father of Antiochus IV, who is stopped by the Egyptian army at Rafah. Pasuk Yud Beis. Pasuk Yud Aleph. Vayitmar Mar Melech HaNegev. The king of the word Mar, like Maror, the king of the south became embittered. He comes out to battle. He comes with a great multitude, and the multitude was delivered into his hand. Ptolemy IV rises to the occasion. Some say he had an army of 70,000 men. Antiochus retreated hastily to his capital, Antioch, again leaving southern Syria to Ptolemy. So it's not yet, Eretz Yisrael is not yet in Seleucid hands. Yud Beis, V'nisah hamon v'ram levavo, v'ipil ribaot v'lo ya'oz. The multitude will feel uplifted, its heart will be proud. Though he will fell myriads, he will not prevail. The Egyptian multitude will be elated. That's the Ram Levavo. Drunk with success, unjustifiably felt that they had dealt a death blow to Antiochus. So Ptolemy IV reverts to his usual indolent and frivolous self and failed to consolidate his victory by pursuing Antiochus and crushing him. But he peeled Rababot. Antiochus suffered great losses in the battle. But the Loya owes. But Ptolemy IV did not prevail. Though Ptolemy IV won the battle, Antiochus III returned again to harass Egyptians. Historians portray Ptolemy IV as an indolent, irresponsible king. His courageous stance against Antiochus III during the campaign against Egypt was the exception, not the rule. After his victory, he returned to his usual life of fun and pleasure. So, Pasuk Yud Gimel, V'shav Melech HaTzafon, so the king of, we're talking about Antiochus III, Antiochus the Great, V'mid Hamon, Rav min Arishon, he brings up an army even greater than the first. Uleketza itim shanim yavo. And at the end of time's years, he comes, Bo b'chayil gadol v'chush rav. He comes with a great army and a great wealth, because you got to feed the army, you got to pay the army. So when Antiochus III, when Ptolemy IV did not chase him and destroy him, when he returns to Syria, he proceeds and raises a great army. He conducts many military campaigns, conquers Asia Minor, and pushes eastward as far as Afghanistan. After approximately 14 years after his initial defeat by Ptolemy IV, Antiochus III felt the time opportune for a new campaign against southern Syria, which means Palestine and Egypt. By this time, Ptolemy IV, who was that king that Antiochus Hagadol fought, had died, leaving his son to his infant son Ptolemy V. And the country was ruled in the king's name by regents, right? If you have a child, you have to have a regent. Good. Comes a very important pasuk. Pasuk Yudalad. This will be the last pasuk we learn tonight. Uba'itim ahem. In these times, Rabim Yamdu al Melech HaNegev. Many rose against the king of the south. Uvnei Pritze Amcha. And the sons of the lawless of your people. We're talking now about Klal Yisrael. Yinasu lamid chazon. They will try to set up a vision, v'nich shalu, and they will fail. Okay. The historical version is that Antiochus III, right? We're talking about he's still alive. His nemesis, Ptolemy IV, had died, but Antiochus III is the king of the north, trying to capture Palestine and Egypt. Antiochus III at this time concluded alliance with other kings, notably an alliance with Philip V of Macedonia. Now, the Malbim says that Uvnei Pritze Amcha, Yinasu Lamid Chazon, is to interpret the known visions of the prophets, or to pretend to have had divine prophetic inspirations themselves. The Jews, having suffered greatly under the oppressive rule of the later Ptolemies, pretended that divine prophecy had foretold the demise of the Ptolemaic dynasty at this point of history. When this failed to take place, they were dealt with as revolutionaries and killed. The authorities naturally saw them as part of the revolutionary movement against Ptolemy V. That's what Josephus says. This information that Josephus brings cannot be corroborated from other source. This is not surprising, since such a pseudo-prophetic movement would at most deserve only a fleeting mention in the discussion of world politics of those days. Given the sporadic nature of the information available to us from this period, it would be surprising if more mention of it were found. Now, the Rambam saw this phrase as a strong allusion to the founder of Christianity, Jesus. Let me first read the Rambam. You can't find these in a lot of the earlier Rambams because of the censor. But I have the Frankel Rambam. Many of you have that. The Frankel Rambam is a very authoritative issue in the last 50 years. It's not censored. Daniel. The Rambam says that Jesus was prophesied by Daniel. Shenemar uvnei pritzi amcha, the pritzim, that means the rebellious of your nation, will attempt le'amid chazon, to do a prophetic vision, but v'nichshalu. V'chiyesh michshol gadol bizeh, there is no greater stumbling block than Christianity. Shekol HaNeviim dibru shaMashiach goel Yisrael u'moshiam. The Nevi'im prophesies that a Mashiach will come and redeem Jews, u'moshiam will save them, u'mekabetz nitchayim, and gather their in gathering, u'mechazek mitzvotan. But Christianity, ze garam labed Yisrael b'cherev. Jews were killed by the sword, u'lufazer sheritam. They were spread around the world, u'lashpila, make them lower, u'lachlifa Torah u'latot rova olam lavor Elohami baladei Hashem. I'm going to read it in English. Yeshu the Nazarene, who imagined himself to be the Messiah and was put to death by the court, it has been prophesied by Daniel, as it is written, Uvnei pritzei amcha, and the sons of the lawless of your people will exalt themselves to set up visions and will stumble. For is there a greater stumbling block than this? All the prophets foretold that the Messiah will redeem the Jews, help them, gather in the exiles, and support their observance of the commandments. But he, we're talking about Yeshu, caused Jewry to be put to the sword, to have their remnants scattered, to be degraded, changed the Torah, and missiled most of the world to serve a God other than Hashem. But the thoughts of the creator of the world are unfathomable to humans. He says all this in Hilchos Malachim. This passage is cited only in part, and it's missing in most editions. The Igeres HaTeiman, also the Rambam's letter to the Jews of Yemen, have similar comments. Now, you should all be jumping on me. We're talking about this is 185 BCE. Yeshu is 200 years later. So I want to read you a Gemara. I prepared this Gemara today. This is Sanhedrin, Daf Kuf Zayin Amud Beis. This is also, I'm reading it from the Steinsaltz. If you open up your Talmud Bavli, you will not see it. It's censored. For the last 2,000 years, both manuscripts and printed versions of the Talmud underwent heavy censorship, where the Christian authorities would remove pieces of the Talmud that they felt were offensive to them. So this is about Yehoshua ben Prachya Mahi. By the way, the Gemara comes in talking about Gechazi, that if those of you, all of us here, remember learning the Navi in Malachim Beis, Elisha had a serpent Gehazi, and he pushed him away b'shtei yadayim. So you're supposed to push with one hand and be makarev with another. If you push people away too much, it leads to problems. And the Gemara says it happened to Yoshua ben Prachya. Now, Yoshua ben Prachya, those of you who know the Mishnah in Avos, Moshe Kibel Tor Misina, Musar Yoshua, Yoshua is Canaan. And then we have a Masorah, and it goes to the first to Reb Shimon HaTzadik is the last of Anshe Knesset Gdola, and Antignashi Socho, and then you get to Yoshua ben Prachya, and he lived about the time that we're talking about, the time of the Chashmonaim. So he lived at the time that Daniel is talking about here. So one of the Chashmonai kings was wicked, Yanai, and he killed all the Chachamim. To save himself, Ozal Yoshua ben Prachya, the Yeshu Anotzri, L'Alexander Shel Mitzrayim. One of the Talmidim, Yoshua ben Prachya, was Yeshu. And they went to Alexandria. Now, that's not surprising. Alexandria was New York City. Alexandria was New York. It's not Cairo. Alexandria was the city of Egypt. And we know now, you can see the Ptolemies had an area in Egypt which was protected from the Seleucids. They liked the Jews. The Jews lived in Alexandria. They did business there. Beis Choni was there. There was a temple in Alexandria. They did business. So that's not surprising that they went to Alexandria. When there was peace, and Shimon ben Shetach was one of the leaders of the Rabbonim in Eretz Yisrael, and there's no more risk from Yanai, sends a message to Yoshua ben Prachya, Mini Yerushalayim Yirakodesh Lichi Alexander Shel Mitzrayim. I'm sending you a letter from Yerushalayim, the Holy Land, to Alexandria. Achoisi Bali Shori B'Sochech Vani Yoshevet Shomema. That means we are desolate without you. You are the Rosh Chachmei Yisrael, and you're in a foreign land, and Yerushalayim needs you. Come also V'Yisrael Elehu Ushpiza. So Yoshua ben Prachya and Yeshu begin the long travel back to Yerushalayim, and they stay in an inn. Avdullah Yikara Tuva. And they treated them very bekovadik in that inn. Omar Kama Yofa Achsan Yazu. Yoshua ben Prachya remarked, what a beautiful hotel this is. Omar Lo Rebbe. Eineha Trutros. It's not so nice. The woman who served us, her eyes are like slanted. Like she wasn't pretty because there was a problem with her eyes. Now, a Talmid Chacham is not supposed to be staring at women to recognize whether their eyes are pretty or not pretty. So Yoshua ben Prachya, the Rebbe, says, Rasha, what, you're staring at women? Afik arba me'er shipuri v'shamte. Now, this obviously must, so they took out 400 shofars and they put Yeshu into Cheret. They excommunicated him. Now, obviously this wasn't the first episode of Yeshu being rebellious or doing something, and this was probably the straw that broke the camel's back. So Yeshu tried to come back to Yoshua ben Prachya to ask forgiveness a few times. Omer Le, Yeshu said to his Rebbe Kablan, accept me. I'm doing tshuva, take me back. Rav Yoshua ben Prachya did not want to accept him back. One day, this was in Shachris, and Yoshua ben Prachya was saying Kriya Shema. We know you're not allowed to speak during Kriya Shema. Also, Kamei, Yeshu came back again to ask forgiveness. At this time, Sover Lekibule, Yoshua ben Prach in his mind said, okay, I'm going to accept him. Achvile biyodeh. He did like this with his hand. That means, wait a minute, right? Wait a minute. He did something with his hand, like, wait. Achvile biyodeh. Rashi says, Dilakablui. He did something with his hand, like, I'm going to accept you back. I don't know exactly what hand move. I always learned shot. He did something like this. Wait a minute. I'm davening, but I'm going to accept you. Maybe smiled at him. So, who sover mitcha kadochile? But Yeshu thought that whatever he was doing was pushing him away again. Azol Zakov Levente. So he set up an idol to worship Avodah Zarah v'ishtachav Allah. Amr Lay. So after this episode, again Yoshua ben Prachia met up with Yeshu Haderbach. He told Yeshu, do tshuva. Amar, kach mekubloni mimech. You yourself taught me. Kol achote u'machlias harabim. Whoever sins and causes other people to sin, ein maspikin biyad Allah so tshuva. V'amar mar Yeshu kishif v'hesis v'dich Yisrael. He practiced witchcraft, and he was mesich. He convinced people, Jews, to worship Avodah Zarah. But the Gemara ends up to a small doiche v'yamin mekareves. If you have a rebellious student, push him with your left, but bring him close with your right. No, so the reason I brought this is that this Yeshu, and I wanted to that the Rosh, Tosas HaRosh says that the different stories of Yeshu, there are different stories in Shas about Yeshu. There's another story in Sanhedrin which describes that he was crucified, because that was in the time of Hileni Amalka, who lived 30 CE. And Yoshua ben Prachia lived 180 years before.
It's a copito.
So there were multiple Yeshua Notzris that are discussed, and it's all considered one. And I think it's fascinating that the Nial, this pasuk is already referenced to that area. Okay. So we will, this parak alone has almost 50 psukim. What did I say, 40, 44? No, 45. Yeah, and then we have the last parak. So we're now, let's just do housework. Next Sunday, we'll have the Navi Shir. Next Sunday at 8 o'clock.
Be off for 2 weeks.
Why will we be off for 2 weeks?
Sukkot, right? I think.
We'll see. We'll talk about it next week. Everybody, Shana Tova.
Shana Tova to everybody. Shana Tova.
Everybody should have a good year. Anybody have any questions, comments?
Ernie, this misinterpretation of the hand signal reminds me of another event that happened with a Jew, Ed Sullivan and Jackie Mason. Remember?
You go ahead.
Yeah.
He gave him the finger. What?
No, what happened is that Johnson was speaking, and he told Jackie Mason to wait 2 minutes till Johnson made an announcement on the network. So he gave him some finger, like 2 minutes. He said, so Jackie Mason thought he gave him the finger back, and he was banned from the Ed Sullivan show.
Oh my God, this is a great story.
So it's a misinterpretation of hand signals.
Hand signals, same story. Oh, so when he gave him the finger, he just told him 2 minutes,
to wait.
And Jackie Mason thought he was giving him the finger.
Yeah.
Funny story.
Ernie,
Yes.
to tell you, I don't know if Mario remembers, when we were in high school a couple of years ago, we had to learn all this stuff, and we had to know all the kings by heart. And there was Cyrus, Cambyses was mentioned all the time, and Darius.
There you go.
Yeah.
So now this is this is Chazorah for you.
Exactly. And the other thing that you said about MS, what happened, Mario? ¿Qué hiciste?
Yes, we hear you. We hear you.
The difference, I don't know, you probably heard it. I don't know the difference between Sheker and MS.
Yes.
The MS has Aleph, Mem,
Very strong base.
two. Sheker is only one.
On the kuf is balancing.
And the Reish is
Very
only
yeah.
so that's why it doesn't have a firm setting.
Right. So Ichu, what time is it in Switzerland when we learn Novi at 8 o'clock at night on Sunday night?
At 5 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, just in time.
Because you'd be perfect for our
Get
shiur.
up actually, but under the shower, I don't think you want to see me.
Because this group has learned Yoshua, Shoftim, Shmuel, Malachim.
Oh,
This group has done it very, the same
Nico,
way.
you
learning
could
this.
teach us all about the kings. So
What?
you can know about all the kings. So you could teach us all
Yeah.
about the kings.
no, it's okay. Never mind. I let Ernie do that.
So Icho, you and Mario were in the same class?
Oh, Mario is much older. Come on. No,
Okay.
but in history, we had to learn all that stuff.
Yeah, but you should invoke in America. They should learn that historic stuff. They
By the
don't
way,
know histories.
do you remember there's a movie called School Ties? It's about a Jewish kid who goes into a prep school. Brendan Fraser. Do you remember? With
Yeah,
young Matt Damon is a WASP kid who's an anti-Semite. You remember? But Brendan Fraser, the Jew, is a great quarterback. And he goes to this Catholic prep school. He davens on Rosh Hashanah. If you haven't seen the movie, I think it's a worthwhile movie. He davens, Rosh Hashanah by himself in the chapel because he's the only Jew in this prep school. Okay. But what I'm getting at is it shows the classes in French, but one of the history classes, they had to know every king of England from, 1066 until Henry VIII, and he goes around the room. So there was a time where they taught history in a real way that you had to memorize and to know that maybe Walter in South Africa, maybe you had the same British.
Esty was a history buff. She knows all the history. She got distinctions in history all the time.
So did they teach it that way, Esty, that they made you know?
Yeah.
They made
right?
you know you had to know everything, all the historic stuff off by heart. All the
Right. Well, we
wars.
knew the presidents. You had to, in America,
In
we had to
English,
know which the presidents were.
we didn't know American history because there is no history. It's very short.
Who is the president anyways?
Of which
By the way, speaking about what you mentioned, the sign can be a problem. Who was the Rav in Warsaw during the war?
What, the Eish Kodesh who died?
Yeah, they not
The Eish Kodesh.
his daughter in
Mario, stop the recording.
And
yet.
told them
Piazza.
to stop, not to cross the street because the Germans were coming, and he understood that he told them to cross, and they shot him. It wasn't the Eish Kodesh, it was
The Piazetzner. No?
no.
But he was also killed in the Warsaw Ghetto.
Okay, but it was because they escaped and they were on both sides of the street, and she told them don't, and he thought yes, and that's when he got killed.
Okay.
Okay, everybody,
And do
daven
hands
well,
up.
daven
Talk
well,
about
and
that.
have a good shana for your
Good
whole
year.
family.
What?
Shana tova for your whole family.
Tova.
Shana
Good
Fegi,
gebench.
Shana Tova, Fegi.
Shana tova, good gebench.